Thanks for tuning in to CreativeLightingPhotography.com. You're listening to the Creative Lighting Photography Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today's episode is going to be the second half of our interview with Chuck Arlund. And before we get to that, I have a few things I've come across that I would like to share. On an upcoming workshop, actually there's two, Chuck Arlund is going to be hosting a flash workshop. Beginner and Advanced, August 12th will be the beginner class. And if your images seem flat, you struggle posing people, maybe you just struggle with flash, which a lot of beginners do, this is a really great workshop, and I would highly recommend you get signed up and take his course. Chuck is a fantastic teacher. He's very patient, and he truly is passionate about sharing his knowledge, which always makes it more exciting to go to these workshops with someone who's willing to do that. And then August 19th is an advanced course in flash photography. Maybe your imagery isn't where you want it to be. Maybe you just want to try something new photographically. This is going to be a great opportunity for you. You're going to learn the use of grids and gels, set up and meter multiple flashes. So just to give you a little information on an upcoming workshop, we like to share information like that, and that's what this podcast is for, is sharing trending ideas and different tips and upcoming workshops. And I would highly recommend you check it out. So we'll get that link posted for you. We have been posting it on our Facebook page, and we'll be sure to keep posting it. And we'll post it again for you so you can check it out. An interesting website that I tripped across is space.com, and it features some astrophotographers, as they call them, who have taken some very interesting photographs of the night sky. I've attached that link to the show notes so you can go and check it out. It's got some really cool images, and if you have an interest of night photography, that may be a cool site for you to check out. Another cool site I came across is the living360.com. It's a lifestyle blog, and I'll be sure to put a link in our show notes. There's some interesting stories about photography on this blog, and some of the articles are really fascinating. I think you'll really enjoy them. One that I came across is an article on an underwater photographer who photographed models in a shipwreck near Bali, and these images are mystical and fascinating. According to the article, the models are 25 meters underwater, and they've got some behind the scenes footage, which was really interesting. There's one photo that was taken where I believe they were tying the model's ankle down to the actual shipwreck to try and get the image. Like they took safety precautions. In one of the images, you do see several divers underwater, so I don't know the whole process. They don't really go into detail about that, but you do want to check out the images. They're pretty cool and fascinating. Another article I came across on the same blog is an article on Steve McCurry. Now, if you're not familiar with his name, you're going to be familiar with his work. Steve is known for some of the most iconic photographs. Just the title of probably his most famous will jog your memory, Afghan Girl. And that was on the 1985 National Geographic cover. And I think you'll really enjoy it. So I'll get that link posted for you as well so that you can check out the story on this particular photographer and the work that he has done for National Geographic and beyond. Also, while I was browsing the Living 360, I came across this photo series I kind of wish I thought of. It's done by a Russian photographer, Murad Osman, and the series is titled See What Happens When a Photographer Follows His Girlfriend Around the World. And the images are really cool and creative, which is his goal for what his project was, and it's really kind of interesting. You don't ever see her face, but you don't need to. You really get the story through his work, and you see them in London, at Disney, in a field of canola flowers, and she's most certainly a sassy little thing. So I'll get that link posted so you can check out that story as well. Now, with all of that, before we head to our second half with Chuck Arlund, because I'm very interested in getting to this interview, Paul Moore is in Iceland. Now, if you recall from his interview, he had mentioned he was going to be going to Iceland in June, and you need to check out his Facebook page. Go give him a like and check out his posts. He is posting images as he goes along his trip over there. Really fun and beautiful images are being uploaded. Some really cool stuff. So please, please, please go check out Paul Moore's Facebook page if you have not already. It's really fun to see him on his journey over there. Alright, well, now to the main event. Let's go hang out with Chuck Arlund. And moving into other creative aspects, you have the most entertaining family photos. I think one of my favorites, I think it's an older one, your wife is lounging on a lawn chair, your son's on a slide, you're by this barbecue grill that's exploding with fire. You know, are these for fun? Or is this what you send out for Christmas cards to family? How did this get started?
I've actually got a whole presentation I teach on this.
Really?
Yeah, this is what
cool.
at WPPI this last year. I'm sponsored by Miller's Lab, and I speak during the trade show. I speak at their booth, and this is one of the things that I talked about. It was a Christmas card.
Okay.
I do not remember where I got the idea. I just thought. Yeah, actually, I think I remember a friend of mine saying how much he'd like to do a, I don't know, like kind of a more of a retro style family photograph.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife was pregnant with our second child, and I just started and my in-laws live in a double wide, and they've got the above ground pool, and it's about as, southern trailer type, what you want to talk about. I was like, this is great. So I got the barbecue thing out. I got my kids going down the plastic, slide. We just thought it'd just be funny. My wife's sitting there lounging with a martini, smoking a cigarette with her Betsy Johnson shoes kicked off, and she's like huge. We would never do this. We don't even drink that much or ever smoked, but it was just kind of funny. I mean, just a throwback to, an era of when I was born. So it kind of reminded me of my parents. So I put on, the jeans and the white T-shirt that my dad always wore. And then, he was a meat pack. So we always, the grill was kind of a big deal for our family growing up. And so I had my mother-in-law, my wife, squirting lighter fluid from just out of frame to get the flames so high. I mean, there's no Photoshop in that really at all.
Seriously?
It was just, it was just shot and kind of funny. But since then, we've gone on and done a ton of these kind of funny cards. Last year's was the ultimate worst, which I don't know if anybody has listened to me knows me. There was a cover rangefinder from a year ago. So January 2000, I guess it would have been 13, was my kids on a ledge, but the only reason that photograph was produced was because my father saw our Christmas card and said, "You're not really sending that out, are you?" So I had to go take a decent picture of the children. And I'm like, I don't know, we call it the family of Satan. It's like the blood like ritual card or something. It turned out exactly not like I had intended.
Oh no.
It's pretty funny.
It is pretty funny.
If you ever see that.
You have a big series of them then.
Yeah, it's very, have you seen that picture?
I haven't seen that.
I'll send it to you. We're all in red.
I have
draped in red. We're all standing in, it's just so funny. Yeah, I'll have to send you these card
please do.
ideas, because they're, like, we've got one when my last one was born, little Nikki 6, and I'm throwing her up in the air, and she's holding so it's like I'm on the floor, tossing the kid up in the air, who's like 3 months old. She's flying over a Christmas tree with an ornament, and my wife's holding the Christmas tree. My son is looking up at his little sister, like, oh my God, and my daughter, my middle daughter, is like glaring at me like, I can't believe you just threw the kid up in the air. So here's the photograph. And that's kind of funny.
That's awesome.
And then we've done a bunch, and I've done a bunch for some people. Like we did one last year that was just I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. It was this family of redheads. So it's like the daughter, son, who are teenagers, and the mom and dad. And it said like rule number 222, 4 gingers should never build gingerbread houses together, or something like this. And basically they're all sitting around the kitchen table, Christmassy, building a gingerbread house, and it's blazing on fire. And you've got the son sitting there with a match and the smirk on his face, and mom's like, it's pretty funny.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I've really taken that and just kind of had fun with it. And people are kind of coming to me now and to do quirky Christmas cards.
That's so cool.
So
it's kind of evolving.
it is evolving.
That's pretty sweet.
It's pretty funny.
So,
But I'll send you those.
Yeah,
if
please
you
do.
can.
That would be great. We'd
Yeah,
love to see them,
they're
and we'll
hilarious.
definitely post the links to those. So lately, I've noticed on Facebook, you've been talking about a lighting setup involving the Bowman lights.
Mhm.
What have you been creating with those lights, and how have your results been?
Same thing I've been creating with every light I've ever used. It's just, Bowens is a company that's been around forever, and they're recently being introduced into America more. If anybody's heard of Mac Group, do you know what that is?
Mhm.
So it's one of the big, like, they've got Pocket Wizard and Mia, I think, and stuff like that. And ProPhoto was a part of that group, and that's what a lot of the campuses use. You know, that's what I learned on was ProPhoto stuff. Since then, I've been using, Alien Views, which are made here in Nashville, Paul Buff's.
Right.
And great lights, especially when you're running around and just running and gunning. But at the same time, they can be a little chintzy looking and stuff like that. And anybody knows that, that's exactly what it is. Well, I had the opportunity. It's like when I'm teaching, I teach a lot, and these Bowens lights have basically came into Mac Group where ProPhoto was.
Okay.
But they're about half as much as ProPhotos, but about the same kind of quality and build quality. Well, I got an opportunity to use them when I was teaching WPPI this year, and then when I was in New Jersey teaching at the Mars, which is a Mid-Atlantic PPA school, and they were brought down. And it was something, as I'm now in Nashville, I'm starting to shoot more and more like professional stuff, and I just needed more I think heavier duty studio equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I love it when I teach because instead of having like a slider that has like just some arbitrary, it's like distance numbers,
Right.
I teach in stops. When I teach, it's like I need a half stop brighter in the back. Let's meter it. We meter in stops. We think about how light is in stops,
Right. Yeah.
not in distance, or like it's still about stops. Or what's the other one they use? The guide number.
Yeah.
And that just stuff confuses me to death.
Mhm.
But tell me a half stop brighter, I'll turn the power up to where it's a half stop brighter.
Yeah.
Well, the Bowens, it's great. It's like they got 2 dials, at least on the ones I have. So some have 1 dial. It's just click, stop, click, and it's just stops, or it's 10 stops.
Oh wow.
And
Nice.
so it's really easy to just illustrate. Hey, here's what a stop. Let's see what 1 stop brighter looks
Yeah.
like. And so therefore, it's an easy way to teach lighting, which is what I do. But as far as what I'm creating with them, it's.
Mhm.
I mean, I've always said light's light. They're very consistent. I love being able to just, once you get everything set up, you're just like, I just need everything to stop brighter. We just go, rather than, you don't really need to go remeter if you haven't changed distance or anything because they're so
Sure.
consistent.
Yeah.
But that's why I like them. They're heavy duty. I like the build quality of them. So,
Very
yeah,
cool.
I'm really loving them.
Yeah. 'Cause I haven't heard you mention them before until.
Yeah, it's something just really recent. And again, like I said, it's just I had the opportunity to use them a couple of times. I've been looking at getting some more solid. I hate saying that, solid lighting, but when I'm using my Alien Bees, I trash them.
Yeah, I bet.
Which in a way is great, and I can run them down right to the company, and that's what they do, and they're great about fixing stuff. But yeah, it's just there's 2 sides of me, and one's this more professional side, and one's the side. And I think like they've got the Einsteins that are very consistent now and stuff like that. But it's it's just one of those things that was presented to me. They're coming into and they're what's going to be used on a lot of campuses because of the Mac Group. And since I teach, I kind of need. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was mine.
Nice.
foray into Bowen, which I'm really enjoying.
Good. Awesome. Fantastic. Well, speaking of teaching, you used to be part of a workshop series called After Dark.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just kind of tell us a little bit about that experience you had with them?
Yeah, it's amazing. They don't exist anymore.
I know, it's really sad.
It is. Although I'm sure something else will come out of his head. Him being Dave Junion, the kind of the mastermind behind After Dark. It was, and the concept, as far as I see it, was, have you ever been to a convention?
I haven't been to one. I never got to make it. I was going to try and make it to that last one.
Or no, have you ever been to like a WPPI or an imaging that's going to be in Nashville for the next 2 years? You know, the PPA Big Imaging Convention is going to be in Nashville for 2015. If anybody's ever been to one of these conventions, you go to your seminars, you listen to your things, you pack up your stuff, and then you go sit at the bars and chat with other photographers you're meeting for the first time. And sometimes you'll get speakers that you've watched who are completely approachable, most anyway, and you're all sitting down chatting around a beer. And it seems like that's where a lot of the real learning was happening. What Dave thought with After Dark was, let's create an environment that's like that, as opposed to getting up really early in the morning, going and sitting through a seminar or presentation, and then going and, you know. And it's funny because it's become a verb, the term After Dark. When teaching, and I've heard a lot of people, or seminars or things I've taught at, we're going to do it After Dark style, is what they say. And which basically means we're going to have a hands-on experience with a small group of people and go show them. Yeah. And sometimes it works, but never as well as the actual After Dark worked, because there was too much structure. And with After Dark, they're just, the lack of structure made it entertaining and fun. A perfect example, this very last one, a lady comes up to me and says, I had trouble on the PPA exam about this thing, and it turned into me going up to a window and a few people coming over, and I'm teaching a zone system class. Completely random. Right. You know, and here we're talking notes. So it was kind of be like, wouldn't it be cool if you were sitting at the bar and so happened to walk through and it's like, man, I really wanted to ask them a question. And he asked them a question, and then all of a sudden some people started eavesdropping. Well, wouldn't it be cool if, they just magically had their laptop and they had a big screen and we had some comfy couches to sit on. Right. Yeah. That's After Dark. The shooting bay was, everybody does these little shootouts where they get together and a whole bunch of people go out. Well, wouldn't it be cool just to hey, here's some cool equipment. You get to try all this stuff out for free. Mm-hmm. You get to rent or check out anything from Canon you want while they clean your gear, which was awesome. Wow. You know, and Canon's like, here, use the new, 85 1.2.83, whatever, coolest lens ever, and the new coolest body, and go try this stuff out. And then going out and learning from all these industry experts and how to do this, how to do that, every style you could possibly imagine, TTL, manual, how to shoot natural light, how to pose brides, whatever you could possibly think of. And if you could think of it, just say it, and somebody will do it. Because that's the cool thing, it's open. You can also say, I want to do this. And you write it in on this big whiteboard. And it goes from noon till 3 in the morning. Wow. And they've got all these studios set up, or you can go outside. And we always have these cool locations where you run around hotels and just do it. It's a photographer's just dream play. Sounds like it, yeah. And trust me, I've been to every single one, and I've seen some things that I'm not allowed to talk about.
Cool. Well, it looked like a cool experience.
It was a blast, and I'm sure something will come out of it. Dave is just brilliant.
And speaking of learning, you have a book out, don't you? You have
book? Sort of. That was a request.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm not a writer. It's a bunch of sketches that I did. You see my blog. I do some of these hand sketches and lighting diagrams, and it's so funny and that's why I called it, oh great, it's another how to light book, because it's there's 10 million of them out there. All it is a mag cloud. They're nicely printed, they really are, and you just get them through mag cloud. I think I make $5 on each one. I charge $28 for them, I think, or something like that. It's so it's not anything about anything other than somebody requested, hey, I love your light diagrams. And I'm like, it was funny because I go, I personally hate light diagrams. Because when when I tried to learn lighting, when I first started learning lighting, it's like, other than being in the studio where I took my lighting class in college was illustrative lighting. I never got to take the editorial class, which would have been people. This was tabletop. So we shot with 4x5s and big soft boxes and lots of mirrors and stuff like that. I didn't learn that much about lighting when it came to fashion or the kind of stuff. Actually, I should take that back because I use a lot of those techniques now once I figured out how to understand lighting. But yeah, I remember working at a camera store and I'm wanting to get into lighting, and nobody was talking about it then. I'd ask, hey, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, I'm not telling you. Nobody would say anything. There wasn't really a place that I knew of to go learn. See, I think I was just living in a Stone Age or something. I didn't know that there was actually colleges that were photo colleges like Brooks or RISD or these kind of places. Just, bad guidance counselors in high school, I guess. So, I bought lighting books. Most of the lighting books I saw, terrible photographs. Yeah. Just the most boring, uninteresting photographs I'd ever seen in my life, unfortunately. But there was a series of lighting books I saw that were more fashionable, that I kind of gravitated to. But that was, every lighting book's the same. It's like, here's a picture, and here's the lighting diagram, and here's what you need, and stuff like that. Well, I went out and bought my 3-light kit, and I got in a garage, and I bought my background set, and I tried to light the stuff, and nothing came out right. Everything looked flat. It never replicated exactly what I was doing. Granted, I was probably not reading it all, because a lot of the times you don't understand it all.
Right.
So it's one of those, I don't know if I realized that distance made a difference much as far as the way light looks. I was back a little bit farther, turn the power up a little bit more. Well, that made sense, but the light looks completely different when it's 3 feet away as opposed to 1 foot away, and just looks different. I didn't know that. Maybe there was a chapter that said test your lights. Look at the. I might have missed it, but I've never been a fan of lighting diagrams because I feel like it doesn't really show you how high is it, how close. It's like height means so much. What is the angle it pointing at? How much is it feathering over the top of someone or feathering across someone? Or is it all these little things about the lighting book or the lighting diagrams, I never got out of it. So I felt like a lighting diagram book was kind of, at least it got me setting my lights. So I tried to write a lighting book that was a little bit more, that kind of talked about that. If I could, I would write a kid's book about lighting, because I think everybody makes it way too overcomplicated. And it's like technical stuff, and it just makes my head hurt. Yeah. And I'm like, someone once told me, if you want a light there, put a light and light it up. And he was being kind of a jerk about it, but the guy was absolutely right. I need to light the face. Well, perfect, let's put a light so we can light the face. The problem is, what makes it pretty? So that was, how do we know that? How do we talk about that? Yeah. So anyway, I would love to write like a kid's book with just stupid illustration. And that was kind of where that came from. But somebody asked me, it's like, can you do something on what turned into a couple of things for a blog post? Hey, why don't you write a book? I'm like, oh God, do I have to write a book? And so I ended up trying to write a book. And it's so funny, even though there's not much writing in it, it was still, I remember a photographer friend of mine from Kentucky, I sent her my text because she actually can write and can proofread, and she would write back to me. She's like, does this even make sense to you? I'm like, and I would be reading it back after I wrote it. I'm like, I think I wrote that when I was asleep at the computer. It was that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I write like I talk. And
a lot of people do.
So it's either, a book that looks like a Jack Kerouac novel. That's just like one long sentence for 3 paragraphs. And then that ain't going to work. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I was wondering how that came.
That's how that came about.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's not anything real. And it's a cool book. It's fun. I get a lot of compliments about it. So I hate to not talk about it, but
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
not. Yeah. Go check it out.
Absolutely, check it out. Buy some.
Yeah.
Buy many.
Please.
Make Chucky some money. Well, your style is like very distinct, and you have, it's just, I just truly love it. And whenever I see a bad photograph on like Vogue or those other fashion magazines, the first thought to my mind is like, they really just need to hire Chuck and take care of this. I hate it when I see something poorly lit or out of focus. It drives me nuts. And it seems like you're always very tack sharp with your focal point and your lighting and
Yeah, a lot of that's just because I shoot above f4. Yeah.
I don't understand why everyone's obsessed with 2.8.
Because it's pretty.
Yeah.
But there's a way to make the same kind of look pretty using longer focal lengths to do the same effect. Larger format cameras help with that, which I know isn't in everybody's budget, but that's, you look at pictures in magazines and you see it's like, all right, well, a lot of it's just the format too. There's a difference between a medium format camera and a large format camera as opposed to a 35 format camera, or even smaller with APS style. You lose some of that depth and separation, and so we compensate for it by 1-2 lenses. But if you're off a little bit on the plane, which I know everybody tilts up and then tilts down, well, you've lost your focus already. So it's and then just not great lighting, like smooth lighting, and that's kind of what I teach. I'm like, I went through the whole, let's just blast everybody. I went through a lot of the things, and the more I look at fashion magazines, the more I realize they still just look like photographs. And well, why do they just look like photographs? Because the lighting is very precise, where you don't necessarily really notice it that much.
Right.
And that's kind of how I teach. Is let's learn to control this to where it becomes again about the photograph, not about the light or the technique. Like if I see the technique before I see the photograph, whatever it is, texture, filters, sometimes I'll see, wow, look at all the filters you did to that picture. Where's the picture? And I'm one that you got to start with a decent picture, and then you can intensify it with a good editing. But very rarely have I seen a bad picture made well with just editing. It can be done, but it's not something I would recommend. So I'm always about trying to balance that light a little bit to make it look more realistic or more, so you don't really notice it.
Right.
And I think that's what you're talking about.
Absolutely. So if people want to check out your images and see your awesome work, where can they find you?
I suck at weddingphotography.com. I used to say that all the time. I don't really even shoot weddings anymore. ChuckArlund.com. I post a lot of my personal work on my Tumblr.
Oh, that's right, your Tumblr account.
Which I go by my middle name, which isn't me, it's my brother or some lost relative. I don't really know who this person is.
You're very artsy on that Tumblr account.
Anton Arlund.
Yeah.
Because it makes me sound like a pretentious art photographer. Anton Arlund. .tumblr.com. But yeah, be wary. It's got, I'd say 80% of it has boobs.
It's very artsy but tasteful.
Yeah, some of it is.
I love the honesty. That's fantastic.
It's what it is.
Yeah.
It's me exploring. It's the stuff I've been shooting. A lot of the stuff is, some of those pictures date back to '88.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So.
Well, you gotta have a place to express your
Well, I got a film scanner for Father's Day last year and started scanning a bunch of my old negatives, and I was like, oh man, I like this stuff more than anything I'm shooting recently.
Really?
So I've embarked on going back. I shoot a lot more film than I did now, and just trying to get back to shooting what I like, as opposed to shooting what other people want me to shoot.
Yeah.
That was difficult to. I felt I'm such a team player. Sometimes I forget to photograph for myself, and that's something I'm definitely working on. Is like just being me, as opposed to being a good cover band per se, as far as photography goes.
Right. Yeah, you gotta feed that soul, or otherwise it gets empty, and then you find yourself a little bit lost.
Yeah, I had a art director for a magazine, a big magazine told me, she was looking at my portfolio last year, and she's like, I feel like I'm looking at 10 different photographers. Who are you? And I'm like, wow. And that's what I kind of came up with. I guess I'm a really good cover band then. That's kind of what she had mentioned. And these are all good, but it's like there's no consistency between any of them. Mm-hmm. They all look like completely different photographers. And some people would say that's a good thing, I guess, because I can adapt, but it's who am I?
Right.
And granted, I've always kind of been a chameleon. All growing, I was the prep, I was the jock, I was the wasteoid, I was the rocker, I was the indie punk dude, I was the mm-hmm. nerd. I kind of I don't know where I fit in ever. So unfortunately it's kind of coming through in my work. Again, some people could say, well, that's good. I'm like, well, maybe, but that's what the Tumblr is. And I always check my archive. That's really why I started. I will post one picture, and then I'll go and check my archive, and it kind of gives you a visual of everything you've done. Mm-hmm. That's like thumbnails. And I don't know, I look through it, and it's like, do I see does it look like one photographer? I feel like I started a year ago, and I feel like it's getting better.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's great. So in our interviews, we do some quick shot questions. Are you game?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What is your favorite subject to photograph?
Lambs.
Seriously?
I'm just looking over there. It's the first thing I saw. No. I don't know. It's hard. That's hard. Women, men, and I hate to say nude because people will think that it's like it's
erotic.
Yeah, it's not even artsy. It's just I think when you strip away outer, you get to see inner.
Yeah.
People, and so it's all about, a lot of it's about expression. So I like to photograph expression. What that equals out to is usually half-naked people laying around with some sort of cool lighting. That's what I like to photograph. I like to photograph musicians because I feel like I get them, even though I'm still resentful a little bit because I want to be the one being photographed. So, I'm intrigued by fashion, always have been. There's something very, like, I don't know. The whole thing's an art piece.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody is, and it's just from the model to the gown to the makeup to the hair to everything about it is just so interesting. And just being able to try to get that and then put it in a situation that is also interesting and playing with it.
Yeah.
So that's why I like photographing.
Nice. Photoshop or Lightroom?
Either. They're just tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't particularly love either one. I absolutely love what they do. I've been using Photoshop for so long. It's scary.
Yeah.
And yeah. I mean, we started using Photoshop before I was using photographs in Photoshop. And we were just doing, and we're talking 1994 when I started using Photoshop. It was more of a graphic design tool,
right.
Like website stuff, and we were manipulating photographs. I just never even thought about digitally manipulating photographs.
Right.
It's so funny. It's like, and then we got digital. It's like, oh, look what we can do. I was like, oh, we've been able to scan negatives for as long as we've had Photoshop.
Right.
It's kind of like, there's nothing really new to this guy.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a long time.
Mm.
I love Lightroom in the sense that it's so much faster to just do your basic edits and the categorizing and the, just all the keywording and everything. So I use Lightroom constantly, and so it's either both. Yeah. I don't prefer one over the other. I think they're still two separate things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree
so.
with that. What's your favorite lens?
50 millimeter.
Favorite light modifier?
Oh God, anything with a grid.
Nice.
I like to focus light, so.
Very cool.
Gridded, not umbrellas.
No umbrellas.
I love the Parabellum umbrellas.
Yeah, those are pretty cool.
Those are great, especially when they're a foot away from your.
What's your favorite website?
What's my favorite website? I'm sorry. You know what I think's cool is models.com.
I've not been.
I look at that a lot. Yeah, it's because you can just kind of get an overview of the industry that way. Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, Facebook.
Right.
Is that a website?
I think it is a website. Yeah, absolutely.
I guess that's what I spend most of my time on, I guess. That's become my blog. And I use Facebook. Unfortunately, Facebook limits your friends, which I know sounds really stupid in itself, but through teaching, you gather a lot of friends. And it's funny because you look at people's likes on their their business pages, I'm like, 5,000 is nothing.
Yeah, right.
So, but then I don't like the business page the way it works in Facebook.
Yeah,
I just don't. There's something. I just don't like it.
Yeah,
I know there's something about it that just drives me crazy.
Yeah, it's not user-friendly.
So I don't know. Yeah.
What's your favorite music to shoot to?
That's a good question. Anything that makes me moody. Right now, no, seriously, there's a album called Alone by the Morning After Girls. In fact, that's what I titled my whole new series I'm working on. It's called Morning After Girls.
Yeah.
Well, it's not new, it's been a year. That's the whole thing and yeah, it just kind of made sense. But everybody's like, what's that about, Chuck? I'm like, well, it's what you think it's about, but the reason I named it that is because the song that makes me feel that way is a song by this band.
Nice.
Yeah. Moody mod indie European rock.
I like it.
Yeah.
Very cool. Do you have a dream photo shoot location?
No. Honestly, no. It could be anywhere, and it depends on Yeah, I mean, put me in some kind of cool, I don't know, European castle somewhere. That's just. I mean, that's I've always been into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just think of Jimmy Page sitting on top of the green fields and then the Led Zeppelin shots and just that. The images of that started coming into my head.
Yeah. Nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
So what inspires you?
Music.
Nice.
Yeah, lyrics, the music. They kind of give it. I'm a musician. That's what always inspired me. Music always came first.
Yeah.
And that just kind of fed into the imagery.
Yeah, I think.
So I mean, I see images in music. So I can feel. I mean, I get tingly feeling. I know other people don't. But I try. I mean, isn't that cool? It's like, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, just something about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a musical person.
Yeah, very nice. What's something that can always be found in your camera bag?
Sweat rag. I sweat like crazy. I can't help it. It's Swedish blood. I don't know what it is. Yeah, or a cold pack. Seriously, that's what can always be found in my camera bag.
Nice.
Yeah.
That would be a handy thing to have.
Yeah, it's
very
or
cool.
wash rag or whatever.
Well, I love it. Well, thank you so much for being part of taking time out of your busy schedule and sitting down and talking with us. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Very cool. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will have another podcast for you in 2 weeks. If you ever have any questions or comments, please feel free to email us at info@creativelightingphotography.com and head on over to Facebook and give us a like. Thanks so much, everybody, and keep shooting.